I watched Backrooms with 20 friends recently, and since we had a lot of thoughts about the movie, I decided to interview them. But first, I want to give a review about what I thought about the movie, and then we'll get on with the interview. Firstly, I want to start off with how strong the beginning of the movie is. We're immediately thrown into a familiar setting and a familiar way of storytelling by Kane Parsons with the Backrooms. Having the camera, that of a first person point of view VHS recording, obviously the most famous format of how Kane films his videos. It's also clear, like from the jump, that this is going to be a slow paced movie. It's a lot of setting up and creating tension and then paying it off very well with the cameraman getting caught by an entity before the camera shuts off and we see a reflection of scientists on a TV screen. The atmosphere feels, well, very liminal. It captures the basic liminal vibe perfectly without having it be creepy or horror-esque, which I love since liminal space is what inspired the Backrooms, and the idea of remembering something from your past in a way that's eerie or incorrect is something that's essentially one of the biggest themes of the Backrooms itself, not only Kane Parsons' Backrooms. I also love how it doesn't lean too much into the horror aspect throughout the film, and when it does it in two ways. Psychologically with Clark and Mary's entire arcs, and physically with the Backrooms itself and the entities we see. Although you can make an argument that both those horror methods go hand in hand. What I love a lot too is how strong and vibrant the colors are. Nothing in the movie feels bland or static in the sense that you can really see different colors pop out and stand out a lot more. Something I don't really see in films nowadays, and something a friend of mine pointed out, which I appreciate because I didn't really bother to notice that tiny detail, but it really does add a lot, and I love how well the visuals were utilized in tandem with the colors. Things that I didn't like personally were the hazmat suits at the ending of the movie. They seemed a bit too out of place and inconsistent with everything that we saw in the movie visually, for me at least, but I don't really have any problems with the movie overall. It's just a tiny nitpick that I noticed that stood out for me. I think what worked the best was the use of the VHS point of view sections, because there are only two scenes in the movie where it's utilized and it never overstays its welcome. It's used perfectly, and the fact they made an entire physical set instead of just green screening the movie was a perfect decision, honestly. My interpretation of the themes were about confronting your past and either accepting them or not. Clark and Mary start off in a similar spot where they are actively affected and acting on their trauma. Clark uses his trauma to justify and victimize himself, constantly blaming others for his actions and even going to therapy to validate himself instead of actually wanting to change. By the end of the movie, when he's confronted with everything he's done, he doubles down, embraces his anger, his rage, his selfishness, and that leads to his death. Mary is the complete opposite, as she is traumatized and ridden by guilt over not being able to save her mentally ill mother. So she becomes a therapist to save others in order to satisfy that guilt. She spends the movie thinking she can save everyone, which is exactly why she goes after Clark. But he inadvertently teaches her that you can't save someone who doesn't want to save themselves. By accepting that fact, she's able to move on from her trauma and guilt. I also love the little touches like her saying that opening a window is like freeing your mind, something that she herself doesn't do until the end. Or breaking the concrete handprint she made with her mom to signify letting go of the past and guilt she's carried for so long. They are essentially yin and yang. Clark refusing to change is what teaches Mary that she can't save everyone, and Mary trying to help Clark only pushes him further into embracing the worst parts of himself. I also adore how it all ties perfectly with the Backrooms concept itself. The Backrooms misremembers, something alluded to when Clark quotes, trying to describe a dog to someone who's never seen it, then asking them to draw it. Clark and Mary are both trapped in weird, distorted versions of their own pasts. It proves that Kane Parsons understood the assignment. It's what makes the setting of Backrooms more meaningful, not only because of the liminal spaces and the inspiration behind that, but because it portrays a reflection of two people that are stuck between their traumatic past and the possibility of changing or deciding not to. 9 out of 10. Now, what did my friends think of the movie?
From trailers and stuff, or
Yes.
yeah, it looks. I've been following Kane for years now, and I am very happy that he gets this opportunity to put his stuff on the big screen. Independent filmmakers are like the lifeblood of what's keeping film going, and to see him like at this point and in his career at like 20 years old, it's really inspiring. I hope it isn't a disaster. I know like half of these people from previous interactions. The other half, not so much. But I have faith that Janelle didn't pick out too many wacky characters.
What is your favorite scene from the movie?
My favorite scene from the movie is when we get our first appearance of Captain Clark. I think that was really interesting because I love the way that they made him look like Clark, but it wasn't him because like his eye was like poking out and stuff like that, and then it was just a lot of grunting and like stuff. I thought it was like really interesting of how they did him.
My favorite scene was, I think, the dinner scene in the back rooms. Like, I really liked that. I was like tense the whole time. Like, with him getting, that was surprising. Like him being all messed up and stuff, eating the people. Yeah, that really shocked me. That was my favorite scene. Yeah.
Blessing. Ending. I believe that the beginning scene was actually pretty fucking good. I think it was a very great start to what the movie's gonna be. Like, it kind of prepared us really well, and I think it was a very like strong, impression, and that kind of like loomed over the rest of the movie because that there's some shit in there because we saw what happened. Like, I think it was pretty cool. Yeah.
I wouldn't say I necessarily have a favorite scene, but I really enjoyed the dynamic between the terror of the backrooms coming out at first and then him embracing it and accepting it. Because when he first went through, he was scared, but then curiosity kept consuming him. He kept on going and going and discovering more. And it wasn't until he found another entity or another person there that made him scared of the backrooms rather than the backrooms itself. So I feel like if that entity wasn't there, he would have gotten lost in the backrooms, not necessarily physically, like not know where to go, but in the sense of he would have enjoyed it too much. I think that's really what it is.
I like the scene where Barry and Clark were talking in that full dining room. Especially when Clark was just talking about how he likes being in the bathrooms. He likes being around all these simulacra and everything. Something about how Clark just fully admits to how terrible of a person he is and how complacent he gets in this episode in his own mess. It was surprisingly relatable. I related really hard to it just because I had moments like those before where I just wanted to just accept being terrible, accept being a mess and all that stuff. And it was just shocking how surprisingly well written that scene was. I think that scene made me realize that the movie was actually good.
For me, I would agree. Like, that dinner scene was just so well written. He's squeaking out, like he's lost it, right? And I just love how aggressive she gets. She matches his energy, and in doing so, he kind of realizes that, yeah, he is in the wrong. Like, he finally stops running away from that, and he sort of accepts, like, yeah, I don't have to fix myself. And unfortunately, like, in doing that, or fortunately, if you don't like him, like, he ends up dead because of that. So that entire scene is just perfect.
I think it was a great emotional. I think it was a great emotional, and of course it was a climax of like in the action sense as well, since that's where he dies. But I do think that was like such a great scene to encompass who each of these characters are, but especially, of course, Clark, Bear, the main guy, anyways. Because like I like that he doesn't exactly say that he's a stagnant person, that he's someone who, wants to say this. I mean, he does say he wants to say the same, but like that's only after more probing and more, like of him trying to like avoid it. Yeah, exactly. We see him running away emotionally and eventually continue to running away by, staying the same. And then that's, like you said, that's what kills him, because, he thought that this entity that he started to see himself in because it was convenient would agree. But it's still just an entity. Like, we don't see any, like...
I think going back to that scene with the captain eating Clark. The difference between the still life and being human is the amount of time that you're there. Because the entity or the backrooms itself forgets things the longer you're there. That's what he said. That's what he understood, right? So the longer you're there, the more you forget, and the more you kind of piece life together. The people who were there, who were dormant, who didn't feel pain or anything, maybe they were there for a long time. Maybe those are people who necessarily didn't die or survived, but they forgot what human life was like. They lived in the backrooms. So they forgot how pain feels, they forgot how fear feels. But then when Clark was there and he was embracing the realm, because he knew of the painting or the artwork that was on the walls that Mary, the therapist, found, he knew about that. So he started to unravel the secrets and the mysteries of the realm. So I guess when he started to accept the fact that it was okay for him to exist and be him and evil, I guess that's when the dormant creatures felt fear. And that's when the lady started running.
All right, any last words?
6 out of 10.
7 out of 10.
7 out of 10.
6, 7 out of 10.
I enjoy the discussions more than the movie.
8 out of 10.
I changed my opinion. It is now like a 7 out of 10 based on our discussions.
All right, thank you so much, everyone.